Dear Shimon Peres, Mr. President Ben Sasson, dear friends, families, and most of all, dear graduates. What a wonderful audience, what a wonderful day for your celebration, and what a beautiful day now for a 3 hours lecture on our bilateral relations between Israel and Germany. I hope you are prepared for that. No worries, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to lecture. I'm here to congratulate you all. Today, you are harvesting the fruits of your hard work. Today, you're receiving your doctorates. Mazel tov to all of you. If I may ask you, which of you are receiving doctorates in law? Wonderful. Great, I thought you might still be in the library. Okay, I admit it, I also did a PhD in law. When I sat in your chair many years ago at my own graduation, I overheard an argument that some graduates were having. Which of their academic disciplines had the longest and proudest tradition? A medical student got up and said, remember, when God created Eve, he cut her from Adam's rib. So he performed the first ever surgery, so medicine is the oldest subject. But then a student of architecture came up and said, no. Before that, God created the earth out of chaos, so architecture was the first. But then the law student said, and where do you think the chaos came from? You heard it, I was law student myself. It was 2 years after the end of my studies in 1984, when I heard of a brave and outspoken man who had just become Prime Minister of Israel, a man who has shaped the path of the Jewish and democratic state of Israel, a man beside whom I never dreamed to sit one day in this historic place. That man is Shimon Peres. כבוד הנשיא, כבוד גדול הוא לי לעמוד עמך ועם תשעת האישים אלה היום על בימה אחת. תודה רבה. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, 5 years ago, President Peres came to my country, right in the heart of our democracy in the German Bundestag. He told us about his grandfather, Rabbi Meltzer. The little boy Shimon loved his grandfather, and on many cold winter nights, he warmed himself under his tallit. Until the day the Nazis came. They forced all the town's Jews into a synagogue. Rabbi Meltzer went ahead of his congregation wearing that same tallit. The Nazis locked the doors behind them and set fire to the synagogue, leaving nothing of the congregation but scorching ashes. That's the story Shimon Peres told us. Ladies and gentlemen, yet in that same speech, President Peres spoke of, I quote, the unique friendship between Germany and Israel today. President Peres, as so many other Israelis, had reached out his hand to Germany, to the land of the perpetrators, and together we held hands across the abyss of the past and built the bridge of friendship. This friendship, my friends, is nothing less than a miracle. Im wunderschönen Monat Mai, als alle Vögel sangen, writes the Jewish-German poet Heinrich Heine. In the fair months of May, when all the birds were singing. In the months of May, 70 years ago, the birds fell silent. The war had ended, and the sunlight of spring exposed the worst crimes in the history of mankind, the Shoah against the Jewish people. And yet in the same months of May, only 20 years later, half a century ago, the State of Israel took up diplomatic relations with the Federal Republic of Germany. And today, again in the fair months of May, im wunderschönen Monat Mai, you are celebrating your doctoral graduation and you are welcoming the German Foreign Minister in your midst. Dear friends, that is only what I wanted to say, dear friends. This is only 3 generations. That's just the blink of an eye by history standards. Only 3 generations who have walked the path from humanity's darkest valley to humanity's brightest political miracle. 3 generations, and look around you. All 3 generations are with us here today. The first generation witnessed the darkness. Shimon Peres is here. Some of your grandparents are here. And also Regina and Zvi Steinitz are here. Regina and Zvi survived the hell of the Shoah of Auschwitz and Sachsenhausen. They live in Tel Aviv, but they still return to Germany every year to be a witness of their suffering to young Germans. Sachsenhausen is where I met them a few weeks ago, and they accepted my invitation to come to Jerusalem and celebrate with us today. Welcome, Zvi and Regina, today. Dear Zvi, in your same generation, not so far away from your hometown, my mother was born in Wrocław, which is now Wrocław in Poland. Back then, Wrocław was a thriving center of Jewish life. The city of Ferdinand Lassalle, Paul Ehrlich, Edith Stein, and Fritz Sturm. A few years later, a few years after my mother was born, Jewish families started to flee from Nazi hatred and violence. Among them, the great historian Richard Koepner. He came right here to the newly founded Hebrew University. 10 years after that, my own mother had to flee Wrocław, now from the war that the Nazis has brought upon Europe and that had turned against its source. And today, Richard Koepner's name is enshrined in this university's Koepner Center, dedicated to exploring German Jewish history. And in Breslau, Koepner's hometown and my mother's hometown, the old synagogue was renovated, the White Stork Synagogue. There I sat just a few months ago and witnessed the first ordination of rabbis since the war. These 4 young rabbis were trained in Berlin and Potsdam, living proof of the Jewish life, which is blossoming again in Europe and in Germany. And this blossoming is our blossoming. It enriches us all, and we must protect it against all forms of anti-Semitism, racism, and hatred, dear friends. Then the second generation, my own generation, the generation of your professors who have guided you through these past years of research. The generation of your parents who are so proud of you here today. Our generation has lived through the first cautious, often painful re-encounters between our 2 countries We, as young people in Germany confronting the crimes of our fathers, your parents as young people uncovering the unspeakable memories haunting their parents. Many of the early ties between Israel and the Federal Republic of Germany came through academia. As early as the year I was born, Hebrew University forged its first connections with the Freie University Berlin. But it took until I was 17 before a German chancellor in those years, Willy Brandt, first came to visit Jerusalem. And even then, it was painful for many in Jerusalem to hear the German language, the shadow of my memory. Your professor and dean, Dror Warman, for example, was 16 years old when he found out, well, only by chance, when he found out that his father Jakob spoke German. Just last week, Dror found a very old letter at home written by his father at age 15 to his grandfather. And that letter is saying, "Father, I want to form a German reading club on our balcony, and I hope nobody will join it." And today, we have joined. We have found each other through the darkness. And now we join together regularly in universities, in government consultations, in business dealings, and somehow I feel on Jakob Warman's balcony. And then there are you guys, the generation of our children. I'm thinking of my own daughter. For her, just like for many of you, the German-Israeli exchange has found a firm place in her life's journey, in her discovery of the world. Especially Berlin and Tel Aviv attract young people like magnets of modernity. Thousands of young Germans come to Israel, and thousands of young Israelis come to Germany and contribute to Jewish life. In Frankfurt, Cologne, Berlin, and many other German cities today, you find Jewish festivals, Jewish theaters, Jewish startups. You can even get a decent bagel in Berlin. To be honest, that is what I have heard from a Jewish friend. How would I know what a good bagel is? I'm just a guy from Westphalia, and I can tell you what a good pumpernickel is here. In these stories from three generations, dear friends, we feel that this miracle is really about. It is not limited to political elites. This friendship is alive in all of society, alive in thousands of stories, alive every day. There is a German expression that comes to my mind. Deutsche und Israelis sind einander ans Herz gewachsen. In translation, Germans and Israelis have grown together at their hearts. To the medical doctors here, this is not a surgical procedure. But what it means to me personally, what this miracle comes down to when I look around the theater, is a deep affection, which is all the more humbling for where we came from and unshakable for wherever we will go. Dear graduates, this is a personal story, but yes, I'm also the foreign minister, and I know that the world you are facing isn't run by that kind of affection. It is not rosy. There is still a lot of darkness out here. Even look around this beautiful place, look down from this historic mountain. There is hatred, there is fear, there is injustice in your own country, in our neighborhood, and also in Europe. But I do have hope. I have hope that reconciliation, understanding, and peace are possible. Some might call that naive. And as you all have PhDs now, I'm going to give you the strongest empirical evidence for this hope that mankind ever have seen. That is the miracle of Germany and Israel, the miracle of friendship after darkness. So this friendship is not just for the history books, it is for the future. It is not only for the generations of witnesses, it is also for the young and for all those who have come new into our societies as immigrants to Germany and to Israel. It is not static, it is alive, and it can deal with the critical question you ask to our own governments and to each other. And maybe this miracle is not just for our own two countries, but it can send out hope to the world for those in conflict and in fear. Dear graduates, this friendship proved that the hard work of 3 generations can create miracles. And now you can do that work, because miracles, this world needs many. Congratulations to all of you, and in the name of all of us, thank you for being honored by this wonderful university. Thanks to the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, I feel honored and I feel moved. Thank you.
אני מודה לדוקטור פרנק ולטר שטיינמאייר. בזה תם חלקו הראשון של הטקס.
Thank you, Dr. Steinmeier. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the first part of the ceremony. Due to additional engagements, the German Federal Minister for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Frank-Walter Steinmeier, and his delegation, the Honorable 9th Israeli President, Mr. Shimon Peres, and Dr. Joachim Barbosa, will now be leaving us. Thank you, gentlemen.
אנו נפרדים עתה מאורחינו הנכבדים, מר שמעון פרס, דוקטור פרנק ולטר שטיינמאייר ודוקטור ג'ואקים ברבוסה. תודה רבה לכם, נכבדיי.